Welcome back to another video of weekly analysis. So we look at the technicals and the fundamentals for the upcoming week so we can prepare for potential trades that we could possibly take. So we'll begin with the fundamentals from the previous week. Previous week we had a lot of central bank data that came out, a lot of announcements. So on Wednesday of last week we had CPI data, the consumer price inflation based in UK. We had a 6.7% reading which came out, which is much lower than the forecast and the previous reading. So this is bearish for the British pound, but the inflation still remains very high, but it has been trickling down, which is a good thing, right? And this number was quite important because we wanted to see what Bank of England does the next day on Thursday, right? Because they had their own policy meeting. Also on Wednesday we had the dollar. The dollar had FOMC meeting, which is extremely big to decide the rate hikes or cuts or even pauses. So the Federal Reserve actually decided to pause rates on Wednesday. In fact, the whole market was actually expecting a rate hike by 25 basis points, but the Federal Reserve actually chose to pause rates, right? So this was initially a bearish indication that if they wanted to pause rates, that means they actually believe that the market doesn't require more rate hikes possibly, right? But in fact, the dollar actually reacted bullish, and the reason was because FOMC also released their economic projections, and they did mention that there will be another rate hike, right? 25 basis rate hike, which is bullish for the dollar. But also, they expect to cut rates by 50 basis points in 2024 compared to the previous projection, which was 100 basis points. So they're basically going to keep rates high for a longer period of time, making the dollar bullish, right? In fact, because of that, the stock market, right, the equities market is going to hurt, which is going to go bearish, right? Maybe even the commodities market, which will also drop, right? And even possibly the crypto market. So this shows you that dollar is going to be bullish for a longer time, at least from what they have projected. And then after a while we had the FOMC press conference where we had Powell speak, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and he mentions as well the same context that we've been speaking about. The dollar is bullish, the economy is stronger than expected, that he mentions, right? Also, very important thing he also mentions is the energy prices. The main reason why inflation did actually go up with the dollar even from the previous week. If I show you, if you look at the inflation data which came out, it actually came in higher than expected, right, from the forecast and the previous reading. And the main reason why was we had a hike with the energy sector. So if you look at the energy sector's data, over here, right there, you see how we had a big hike from in inflation with the energy data. And the main reason why is, if you actually look closely to these numbers, you would notice that Biden has been actually dumping oil reserves so he could actually get the inflation numbers down, so the energy prices down. But energy prices have been soaring again. And if you actually look at the SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, their stock, right? If you look at, this is public information, you can look this up. So if you look at 2022, look at the number. This is from every month, right? Jan, Feb, right, to December. Look at the numbers. It has been dropping, right? He has been dumping thousands and thousands of oil barrels, right, to actually get the prices of energy down so inflation can be controlled. But if you do notice, their oil reserves have been cut in half pretty much, and they are now actually backed themselves into a corner. So they don't have enough oil reserves to actually dump, right? So energy prices are again soaring, and that has caused inflation to go up. So Powell also in the last week in the press conference again mentions that oil prices are again going up, right? Energy prices are going up. Inflation still remains very high. So a lot of bullish indication for the dollar, right? But he also mentions the economy is still growing. The economy is not yet feeling the pain of the rate hikes. So technically the economy needs to feel pain, needs to go into somewhat of a recession if the rate hikes are aggressive, right? So dollar is bullish, right? That's what the conclusion of it. On Thursday, we had British pound, Bank of England meeting, right, regarding the rates. And what we see is 4 people of the Senate, the members, they chose to hike the rates, but 5 people actually chose to pause the rates, right? So the majority won, and they decided to actually pause the rates. To me, this is not a good thing, because if they choose to pause the rates even while inflation remains so high, it isn't a good sign, because inflation can easily get out of hand, and again the inflation can easily go up, right? So they are yet far away from getting the inflation down to their 2% target, right? So that's why we had a British pound which was weak, right? A bearish British pound, and that's what the traders started to price in into the market soon as they saw the news. We had Philadelphia manufacturing index, which came in lower, right? Which is a good thing for the economy in a way, because if the manufacturing is dropping, that means the rate hikes are somewhat working. Then on Friday we had the Japanese yen Bank of Japan announcement as well, and they obviously chose to keep the rates where it is at negative 0.1%, because they still want their currency to get more inflated, which again makes Japanese yen still somewhat bearish, right? They have been making interventions by just some comments, but they don't seem to be working anymore. People have caught up to that, so nothing with the Japanese yen that has changed. So let's look at the coming up week, right? The current week. So on the current week we have some news announcements, some important ones. On Tuesday we have consumer confidence, right? Consumer confidence is expected to go down, which is not a bad thing. If the rate hikes are working, the consumer confidence has to go down. So important statistic to keep an eye on. The durable good orders, right? Important statistic. Probably the most important one for the next week would be the GDP, right? The final GDP for the dollar, which is the last reading, right? We have three readings: the preliminary, the advanced, the preliminary, and the final, right? So it is expected that the GDP is supposed to be going up, which is not the good thing, right? If the rate hikes are working, the GDP has to actually drop, right? There shouldn't be more output from the country if people are suffering, right? So this is not a good thing. This shows you that the inflation is still entrenched into the economy. So GDP is still going up. Some very important number to keep an eye on, and some I usually notice with GDP numbers, the commodities market actually reacts quite aggressively. The pending home sales shows you a forecast that it has actually forecasted to go down. Important number to possibly you can look at. And on Friday, Jerome Powell speaks for the dollar, which is at a very odd time, right? And I think this is due to, yes, he's due to speak at a town hall event, right? Maybe he may drop in some hints with the economy, possibly, which could give us some more indication on where the economy is headed. We have Tokyo core CPI on with the Japanese yen. Core PC price index, very important number that Powell has been again and again reiterating. That is an important number that the Fed is keeping an eye on. This number is forecasted to come in at 0.2% stagnant, right? This number needs to drop if the inflation is working. And the consumer sentiment with the University of Michigan. Alright, let's look at the technicals now. So let's begin with the dollar index first. Let's look at the dollar strength, and the dollar index exactly is showing us how we interpreted the fundamentals. Dollar remains bullish. Notice how price is has broke these lows, picked up liquidity, and has been pushing up. I expect price to possibly come around these areas at 110, right? So that's what we have been seeing, but dollar is bullish. Maybe it is due for a pullback, then maybe a push, but it remains bullish, right? So that's it confirms the fundamental bias. So let's look at the dollar Japanese yen. So we are bullish, right? Like if you look at the order flow, if you zoom out, look at the bullish structure, right? The order flow is bullish. We look at the daily remains the same, right? Bullish order flow towards the top, right? And the technicals somewhat remain the same from the previous week that I mentioned, because we see price push, right? But price hasn't yet given us a entry towards this zone, which would be at 145.750. I would not take an entry, but I would possibly wait to see if price can come towards this area, react somewhat, give us a market shift confirmation, and then we possibly take an entry to long this, right? So this is what I'm looking with the dollar yen. I would like to see a confirmation entry. So let's look at the British pound, Japanese yen. This has been a bit choppy, and the reason why is the momentum has slowed down, the bullish momentum, and the main reason why is because the British pound has confirmed a bearish sentiment. So we look at the bullish nature, right, on the monthly chart, and notice how price has slowed down. If you go back to the weekly chart, so notice the doji candles where the volume has been dying off, and we see the volume slowly enter the market to the bearish side. Look at the daily now. So the daily chart also confirms that the British pound is weak, and in this pair, obviously the Japanese yen strength seems to be higher, right, compared to the pound. So what I expect is to short it, right? I would like to have sell positions on this instead, which would be the highest probability. And I believe we may see that if price again gives me a confirmation around this area here. If you can see price pull into this area here at this H8 supply zone, get a structure shift, possibly I'll take a sell position here, which would be I'll mark off this area at 182. Let's make it a flat number, maybe 800. So around this area I would like to see, I want to see what price does, and if it reacts and gives me a market structure shift, I'll take this entry. Obviously, if I take any of these entries, I'll be posting it on the Telegram chat, the free Telegram chat. Please join in there to stay updated with these trades. The British pound dollar now. So this is the trend on the British pound dollar has been extremely clear. In fact, I would say is bearish, right? So if you look at the weekly, and if you look at the weekly chart, notice how we have a break, right, a bearish order flow, right? All these structure points have been broken through. And if you go to the daily as well, very clear, right? Very clear lower highs, lower lows, and I would expect I would possibly want to take a short position here, right? Similarly, I would like to see if price can come over the daily supply zone, give us a confirmation to possibly short this, right? So this area would be at 123.750. Right, so this is where I would like to see how price reacts to, right? And this pair obviously has a clear trend indication. The main reason why is the dollar is way stronger than the pound, but if you compare the British pound with the Japanese yen and British pound are somewhat weak, right? Both are kind of weak, and it's a battle of two currencies there. So the Japanese yen is stronger there, but the dollar is way stronger than the dollar. The dollar is way stronger than the pound, the British pound. So let's look at the gold. Gold has been extremely choppy to me. I haven't taken a trade on it for a while now. And the main reason why is these very choppy moves. Like look at the monthly chart, it's consolidating. On the weekly, we see consolidation. It is technically bearish, right? It is technically bearish, but the trend hasn't been as clean as I would like it to be. If you look at the daily as well, all right, quite choppy to me. I would like to see this range completely break towards the downside, or maybe towards the top side, right? But I would expect this to be bearish for now, and possibly price to actually drop towards this daily demand zone. If price does decide to eventually come over here, I'll possibly take a counter trend position, right? This would be a counter trend position to go long, but for now I don't see any entries, to be honest, so we will leave this at that. Let's look at SPX, your S&P 500. Let's begin with the monthly chart. It is bearish, right? We notice how price has been bullish for a while, and price is now shifting towards the downside very clearly because of the fundamentals. The equities market that has to hurt pretty much, which I did mention, right? So it does support the fundamental bias. So the weekly chart, we see this bearish candle breaking the structure point here, right? So I'm looking to take only sell positions on this. right? So if you notice, we have a double top pattern here, right? And then we see a break below. So, and we have a supply zone right at the neckline of the double top, right? So this is where I would possibly look to take a sell position on the 12-hour, right? The supply zone. So over here, this zone here is 4-4, about 4-4. Oops. Right. So here, this area here is where I would possibly take a sell position. Maybe take a confirmation entry. There is a possibility I may get in aggressively here because the stop loss isn't as big, right? It's about 9 points, but something I'll keep you updated in the group. I want to see how price develops throughout the week when retracing towards this area here. With NAS 100, NAS 100 has the similar setup as SPX. They kind of mimic each other pretty much. So same thing, bearish flow, right? Weekly also has that same bearish flow. The only thing with NAS is that I would like to see NAS 100 break this low here, this structure here. So if price breaks the structure and then starts retracing, I would like that. That would be a high probability for me. If you look at the daily though, the daily is bearish, just like the SPX chart that I showed you, with the same double top pattern and a neckline, right, where we have a supply area sitting at a discounted level. So this would be at 115,350, I would say, pretty much, right? So this is the supply zone I'm looking to take a trade from, possibly, but this would be again a confirmation entry that I want to see a market shift, and then I'll probably take a sell position from. So let's look at US30 now. Haven't taken a trade on US30 for a while too. A lot of choppy price action, but at the moment we are now seeing some form of a trending move. We see the bearish order flow with the weekly chart here. The daily again confirms that bearish order flow. The same thing, double tops, and then we see a break below, right? Very similar setup with the other two indices pairs. So price is actually heading towards the demand zone here, and if price does hit this demand zone, there is a somewhat of a possibility for price to actually give us a confirmation entry to take counter trend trades here, right? But I would be extremely careful again because it's counter trend trade and the dollar is extremely bullish, right? So this would be a lower risk trade if I to take this, and this would be at 33,900. Yep. But the main position that I am actually looking to take a position from is a sell position, right? And the sell position sits above here at the H8 area, supply area, where I would possibly take a confirmation entry and get it take a short position from here. The only thing I don't like about this is that we have another supply zone sitting right above this. So this is why I would wait for price to see what kind of structure it forms, what kind of rejections it has, and then possibly take an entry. Again, to stay updated for all of these trades, join the free Telegram group. I'll post the trades I entered from and maybe even update regarding the fundamentals. So I would say it's quite important if you want to keep updated with these trades to join the free Telegram group. Alright, so until next time, we'll be back.